Joining us in studio now is spokesperson of the Department of Women's Affairs, Ginosi Machepa. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, Ginosi, the department used to cater for women, children and people with disabilities. It's now referred to as the Department of Women. Can you just briefly take us through some of the changes?
Thank you. Yes, we're a Department of Women. We don't have affairs at the end. We have been elevated to the Office of the President because it was felt that the issues of women need to be elevated, looking at the history and the role that women played in the freedom that we attained today, you know, from your 1913. Before there were even women formations, women could unite on their own and fight for what is rightfully theirs from the disposition of the Native Land Act in 1913. You know, meanwhile, the Bantu Women's Organization or League was only formed in 1918. So even 5 years prior, women were already leading in the struggle for freedom. So we have been elevated because we've seen a bit of regression in terms of women's rights. When you look at your maternity leave, we've realized that it's no longer 6 months like it used to be. Organizations are tweaking it a bit. You know, these days you find that a woman is given full paid maternity leave for 3 months, and then for the fourth month you are told we'll only pay you half and you must claim another half somewhere. And then for the fifth and for the sixth month, we don't pay you at all. So women's rights are being cut bit by bit. So issues of women need to be elevated. We've seen on media how rife gender-based violence has been. You know, looking at how the input that women has made into the freedom that we have today, it is not correct that women are experiencing this abuse and the harassment that we're experiencing today. Hence, we have been lifted to the President's office in order for our issues to be close to him, in order for the President to be able to deal with them with the agency that they desire.
Now, in terms of some of the projects that were already initiated by the previous department, what are some of the challenges that you're going to face moving forward that you think you have?
Patriarchy will always be a challenge. We've got legislation, beautiful legislation. Yes, there's gaps. Some legislations were formed about 10 years ago, 16 years ago, and time has evolved. So we have to move with the time, because most people's argument would be, but you've got legislation, so why should we have the Department of Women? Forgetting completely that the challenges are dynamic as the issues of the country are. So the more the country and the time changes, the more new challenges come in. When we wrote most of the laws, we did not have your HIV/AIDS. We did not have this gender-based violence. So we need to look at the gaps. We did not have women in businesses. We did not have women going out seeking funding for their own businesses or seeking funding for their own homes. We did not have that then, but we realize that today more and more women, as they become financially independent, they want to access these things on their own as individuals who are entitled and who have right to make decisions. But those laws are still restricting women for in case when a woman is married and the husband ain't working and the woman wants to buy a home for the family, the woman still, in terms of the law, the woman still needs to take the husband to the financial institution because the husband has to consent. And looking at the patriotic values of the South African society, most cases men don't want to stay in homes that were bought by women. You know, so it becomes a problem men don't want to sign. Or when you want to apply for funding for your entrepreneurial business, men feel that they don't support you, they don't think you will make it. You know, you still have go out and need their permission for you to get funding. So there are gaps that we need to look at in order to totally liberate women and make sure that they are financially independent, because we believe when women are on their own and they can stand on their own financially, we could have a better country in the near future.
Now, speaking of empowerment and gender equality, as a department, would you say that you're leading the example in terms of having women in senior positions?
Of course. We have our minister, is female, our DG is female, our two DDGs are female, I'm female, so we get in there. And we want other departments to take cue, but not only in the public sector. We also want to see change in the private sector. That's where we're still having challenges. And in this 5 years, we're going to be focusing on them to say, you need to come to the party. You are within the law frames of this country, and we cannot be operating differently. But we have made strides in the country. There has been movement. We have got women CEO today. We've got women MDs. We've got women chairpersons of boards of serious organizations. We have made strides, but we still need to do more.
Now that the disability wing has been moved to the Department of Social Development, how are you going to, as a department, how are you going to help, let's say, a woman who's got problems, but she also happens to be disabled?
A woman with a disability or a woman with whatever the condition is still a woman. So we're not going to look at issues as whether this one is disabled, therefore a certain portion of your rights will be handled there. No, we're going to be addressing women as a complete human being. So they will still be taken care of within the Department of Women.
Now, what we did earlier on is we asked our viewers what they think the role of the Department of Women is, and this is what they had to say. Natalie Johnson said, no, I have no idea what the role of the Ministry of Women is, if they are just watchdogs who will implement laws and policies, perhaps. Nkululego says, I think only a few women understand the crucial role that is supposed to be played by the Women Ministry. Mbatwana says, I don't think those women in rural areas have an idea of this women's ministry. And lastly, Aaron Oliphant says, an interesting one, women ministry has a lot of grey areas. Does it also include feminism? Are roles perhaps reversed? So what's your take on that? Does it include feminism?
It's very interesting that statistically in the country, it's men who actually support the ministry. And the most people who don't support the ministry are the very women that we need to protect. But we're hoping with more and more awareness campaigns, women will begin to realize that they are actually not yet free. We still need to make strides. We look at issues of gender as well. If you remember, before the elections of May this year, we were driving what we call the wage bill, Women Empowerment and Gender Equality Bill, which we wanted it to be enacted so that we have an act where when you do not comply in terms of women empowerment and gender equality, then there's punitive measures. There's something we can do. What creates a stagnance now, it's because there is no law that forces you to implement this thing. So people can implement whenever they want to implement. But when there's an act that says if you don't, then these are the punitive measures, we'll begin to see progress. So we encompass issues of gender within the department.
Now, one of the tweets I read mentioned women in rural areas. As a department, what are some of the strategies that you have in place to make sure that women in rural areas don't feel left out and they know some of the services that you offer?
We don't offer a service at all. We coordinate, we advocate, we oversee implementation of policies, and like I said earlier, where there's gaps, we intervene. Recently, there's a policy that the Department of Land Reform is working on in terms of giving equity to people who are working the land. So such policies, we get into the picture and say, the people who are working the land in most cases are male. So if you're going to give a male who's been on the farm for 25 years and you give him 25% equity in the land, what about the woman who's been working in the farm but not working the land, raising the children, taking care of the farmer and the family in the kitchen? That woman has also been working in the farm. What about this woman? So these are the roles that we do. For the rural people, government has got different structures. We've got national, we've got provincial, we've got municipalities, district and local. People have to go to the structures that are near to them and raise their issues there, and then they get elevated to where they're supposed to get elevated. And if there's a need that as a national department we need to come down to a certain area because there has been too many cries on a particular issue, then we come down through your imbizo, through your campaign awareness and the like, and we address people at that level in the language that they understand the best.
Now let's talk empowerment and the emancipation, specifically the economic emancipation of women. What's your take on it, and what should we be doing to move women forward in that space economically?
For the next 5 years, that's what the mandate of the department is going to be, to empower women socio-economically and to also make them aware of their human rights. Earlier, I said women, when they're independent, which is economically, then they will be better because they will be in a position to make their own decisions. So we need to start moving women and opening the blockages that they are experiencing. We need to start going to departments such as your DTI, your Department of SMME newly formed, your NYDA, and the private funders, to go to them and say, what can we do to see to it that we move? If you've observed in the private banking sector, there has been movement where they are coming up with unique products made for women. It's because of the policies that we're implementing and the influence that we're making in policies to say, how do you cater for women as a unique being with a unique background, because women are not the same as compared to men. And the other thing for women is that we need to, when we approach business and when we approach our professions, we approach it as women. What makes us fail as women is that we want to approach these things as men, and we aren't men. Men will always be men, women will always be women. That's why there's two. Otherwise, we would all have been men. So if we want to elevate our issues and act like men, we fail because that's not who we are. So we want to encourage women to say, it's okay to be a woman. It's okay to lead. It's okay to be feminine and lead in the feminine way. So we want to say to women, go out there, grab the opportunities. We are here. Whatever the challenges you are experiencing, elevate them. Let's see how we can assist and propel you to the right direction.
Now, as the Department of Women and one that's been newly formed, you've got new ways and new ideas of doing things. What would you say is the most important thing that you would like women of South Africa to know today in terms of the new way going forward?
We're going to implement our mandate in 3 ways. Through monitoring and evaluation, through the research agenda, because the challenge that we have realized is that we second guess women. There are no facts. That's why we always miss the point. So we're going to search the research agenda where we say, give us facts so that when we deal with issues of women, we deal on figures, we deal on facts. And we're also going to, the third one is going to be the gender responsive budgeting, where we say into government, everybody's budgeting processes must be gender sensitive. When you budget in an organization, you must budget accordingly for your women in your organization. Let's say, for example, if you have women in leadership or in other positions, remember that women bear children. So come up with a center of some sort that can take care of children after school, or they can even school there so that when there has to be meeting that overlaps outside office working hours, women can continue without any stress, without having to think of the child, because the environment would have provided for that, and women can therefore be fully productive. Because we believe the policies are setting women up for failure, because as a mother, what rings in your head first are your children. So when time comes and your child is at crèche, you cannot compromise your child for sitting in and meeting. You will first choose your child. What do we do to make sure that women do not have to always be worrying about things at home? How do we budget to make sure that their needs are catered for at work? In terms of when they are pregnant, what do? Women wear high heels. We were giving a very simple, practical example to say your flaws in your organization, are they women or friendly, or are they made for men who are walking in their flat and comfortable shoe, while women wear their stilettos and the like and they fall? So are you gender sensitive when you build? Are you gender sensitive when you budget? Normally people think these things are not important, but they are.
Now, finally, this Women Month's theme is Together Moving a Non-Racial and Non-Sexist South Africa Forward. Would you say that this is a very relevant theme?
Of course. Actually, we're celebrating 60th anniversary, which is a great thing, of the women of 1954, who came into a conference and wrote a charter with the 8 aims that have influenced today's preamble of the constitution of the country. So the constitution that we see today was actually built on the charter that was drawn by women on their own in 1954. So that hence we're saying celebrating 60th anniversary and 20 years of freedom together. We don't want to say, as women, we can take the country forward alone. It's impossible. We always have to move together. Hence, we're saying together, we move in non-racial, non-sexist South Africa forward.
Thank you so much for your time.
It's been my pleasure.
That was Kinosi Machepa, Department spokesperson of the Department of Women.